we actually just 10 days before lockdown had reopened it as a new restaurant, a Cantonese restaurant.
Join the movement. Change what you can with the MG ZS EV.
Thank you so much. So basically, pandemic and what it's got in store for us, that's the entire learning that we are going to evolve and share and learn from all of these restaurateurs that we are going to bring to you. So the first question that I have for Gauri, who is a law graduate, a chartered accountant, and now a restaurateur. A lot of accomplishments under your hood. I was just reading an article in Times of India, I think May 2020, where you spoke about the temporary impact of COVID. Now we're sitting in October almost. What do you think have been the struggles so far or the challenges thus far? Do you think that there's an evolving environment? Do you think that there are certain learnings? Do you think there are certain survival strategies that you had to kind of put into play in this entire environment? What is the dynamic? Can you please shed some light on that, Gauri?
Hi. So firstly, thank you so much for having me here today. Yeah, I mean, it's been a little over 6 months that we've been closed. Our restaurants have been closed, but we recently, got word that we will be allowed to sort of reopen sometime in October. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the restaurant industry was, massively hit by the current situation, as were many sort of other industries as well. But if I talk about sort of from the restaurant industry perspective, I think it's definitely sort of made us wiser, I guess, for how to sort of deal with the way forward, but also just to I think that's what's worked for I guess any business. It's not sort of specific to the restaurant industry as such, is to learn to be agile. I mean, when you're hit with a situation like this, you can't you can't sort of afford to just shut off and not deal with the situation. And that's what's really I think been a huge learning for me and my team, is to see how everyone really just pulled it together and did what they had to do to, whether essentially it's to be able to pay salaries for our team or just to, keep people busy. Because honestly, at the beginning of this, no one really knew how long this was going to go on for, right? So whatever the motivation is, I think the key learning was to be, nimble and sort of quick-footed on this, to react to it quickly and get on with it and do something, rather than nothing. And a lot of things. I mean, honestly, even just about communication with my team. I mean, as your business grows, it's so important that, especially in a situation like this, staying in touch and having constant communication with people who, frankly, are all going to be in the dark, all very scared. About what's going on. And I think that those are two of the sort of biggest learnings. Of course, there are very specific, like, operational learnings that, have happened for us as well. But I would say that, bigger picture, this was sort of the key takeaway.
Right. And you just mentioned about the entire fear psychosis, and nobody knew what was going to be the next day looking like. Are there certain measures that you took as a restaurateur in terms of adopting certain digitization initiatives which helped you to kind of rationalize your cost? Anything that you did could be key learnings or key takeaways from this entire scenario?
So, one of the things, Nikki, about hospitality is firstly, being able to comfort and reassure your guest, right? So whether you're doing it in a restaurant format or you're doing it in a delivery format or whatever it is that, you're doing, being able to reassure them and give them comfort on whatever it is that they're sort of also going through. At the end of the day, they're your customer, right? So there's sort of two aspects to it. So one was, putting in place measures that ensured that we were able to give that kind of reassurance and allow them to trust us. So we took various measures from a health and safety perspective before we could resume delivery. And I think that was really a big key sort of factor for us to be able to even think of doing resuming business. And so some of the things that we did was, for example, we moved our team onto the premises so that they wouldn't be commuting every day. And because we were short-staffed and, a lot of people had gone away back to their hometowns and, then couldn't come back. Because we actually closed, most restaurants, at least in Bombay, closed a few days before the lockdown officially got announced. So we just thought, it's a temporary thing, it's a couple of weeks. So a lot of people went away and then got stuck. So, the result of that was that I was actually on the floor. It was almost like startup mode for us because, I was sort of there very much helping the team on a day-to-day basis. And I think, again, seeing that was so important for not just our consumers, but also our team, because, it was like all hands on deck. Everyone was kind of working together. So I think firstly, dealing with that psychological impact was really important for us. On an operational standpoint, of course, we, just getting our sort of team mobilized was a big task. But I think, you mentioned digitization. That's kind of been the biggest learning. I feel like I've had this mini degree in digital, sort of in tech in the last 6 months, because I've really had to learn. We keep saying we're restaurateurs, we're not, we're not tech people, but we've literally had to learn, about that back end in a lot of detail to be able to make decisions about, what was best for our business. And so, from everything from the actual sort of delivery ordering, channels and creating our own and not being dependent on aggregators when, the current scenario is very bleak when it comes to aggregators. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar, but the restaurants have been struggling with that for a long time. And obviously this situation has exacerbated that struggle. So this was a key time for restaurants to find their own feet as far as, delivery was concerned. We also, tried to reallocate our resources. So a lot of people who were currently, weren't able to work in their previous sort of capacity because the restaurants were closed, we kind of brought them on. It could be as riders or, to do different roles to sort of, redistribute the responsibilities among the existing team and still try and keep them employed as much as possible. So I think, digitization has gone a long way in helping us do that. We're still learning, every single day about how to do that. And one thing is, of course, taking ownership of the process, but the other big part of that is the savings in cost. So, which right now everyone is sort of scrutinizing,
Correct.
down to the last detail. So I think that's been sort of the biggest operational, I would say, improvement and enhancement for us, because I don't think that that's temporary. I think this is a step in the right direction for the most part.
Thanks for that, Gauri. I'm going to take the same questioning to Aditi. Aditi, your journey has been from finance to fine dining. I think Gauri and you share that aspect of being, financing geniuses, and I think that's what works in your business environment. Just wanted to ask you, you have this fantastic proposition, Aditi, for somebody so young to have thought of wilderness to table. I know it takes a lot to get the sourcing right. It's also a part of logistics to get that positioning and entire experience for your customers. So what have been your survival strategies in this pandemic? How have you kind of wrestled with the logistics? How have you kind of kept the brand proposition alive?
Hi. Okay, so actually, of course, wilderness to table, which earlier on required a lot of foraging. We travel all over the country, season to season, go sourcing for our ingredients. But of course, in these times, it's been very limiting in terms of, where we could travel and how we could source our ingredients. So we were very, very dependent on one of our partner farms called Offerings. where we have our own poly house and we're growing a lot of our ingredients. So a lot of the produce came from there, and also very, very dependent on Zama Organics, which is actually run by my sister. And she's tied up with a farmer conglomerate in Uttarakhand and in Maharashtra, which is like a farmer, she's got a group of 300 farmers based in the north and about 300 farmers in Maharashtra. So we've been heavily dependent on her and her sourcing during this time, because we've obviously our foraging has been very limiting and we haven't been able to travel at all.
Right.
So and also I think we also adapted and we've changed the menu and we've made it very, it's really sort of, what people are sitting at home and craving is really like comfort food, in the comforts of their home. They want to eat really, of course, restaurant quality food. And I think it's also like brands like, Gauri and everybody has done it so well, where even sitting in the comforts of your home, when you open all the packaging, you really feel like you're eating in a restaurant, So I don't think, I think even for us, we've really paid a lot of attention to the way things arrive at somebody's house, the attention to detail in terms of, the quality or the way we would envisage, how somebody would, reheat their food in the house. So, obviously giving, say, the sauces separately or doing something at a certain temperature, it arrives at somebody's house, how they, we would have to like sort of perceive how they would reheat the food. So sending sort of a list of instructions. So you really feel, and that's the feedback we've been getting throughout lockdown, or while we've been in this sort of phase where we're not able to open restaurants, is like people still like when they're dining, eating out of our services. And I'm sure a lot of our customers are very similar, that are ordering from table and ordering from Masque, and everybody is of the same opinion that everything is coming literally like you feel like you're still eating in a restaurant.
Right.
So that's how it started.
Both Gauri and you spoke about this entire era being of agility, of showcasing versatility, whether it's changing the dynamics of how you used to do business, adapting to it. I just wanted to understand, because you spoke about, customer experiences, whether it's retail, aviation, or hospitality, it is all about services. It's about that experience that the customer walks away from. But at the same time, Aditi, it's also today's scenario. How do you kind of elevate the experience still, but keep to the cost and keep the cost low? So I just wanted to understand that. How does that walking the plank work?
So of course, experience is something, you come to a restaurant for, of course, the food is really important, but also the ambience, right? So I think when you're taking that experience of the ambience away, that's what makes it special to dine in a restaurant. So I think to create that in a home environment, of course, we needed to innovate a lot, because you still wanted the experience to be special. Like, when somebody receives something from Masque or Sage and Saffron, like they should be excited about opening those boxes or navigating through those like 20 boxes that arrive to put together a meal. Because also I feel through lockdown, our customers have become amazing cooks. Like everybody is a master chef in their comforts of their own homes. Everybody knows so much more about produce. They're going, shopping for this produce. So I think, now I feel like it's even a bigger challenge when you're actually doing a delivery service, because it's not like before where they would be satisfied with 6 options. We're constantly pivoting in terms of, how, one day we're doing like birthday hampers, one day we're doing like, a Kashmiri. I think it's constant innovation. I think also like how cleverly, like, Gauri has put together like a couple of cloud kitchens within her space. It's about utilizing the expertise of your chefs or your team to be able to, sort of expand your offering. And I think that's exactly what we're doing. Like, whether, for instance, like we used to do a lot of like meals, which were like sort of a Masque cook-off between chefs on Sundays, which was like a constant at Masque even during regular service, where the team would cook and do cook-offs between each other, which now we've basically taken and like put into a delivery model. So like, you know, we had like these weekend specials where chefs took over the menu. Each one of our chefs at Masque took over the menu. So one day we did like a picnic in a basket, or we did, you know, a Kashmiri meal, or we did like a North Indian meal, or, you know, we did something, a chef was from the south of India, so we did like a South Indian inspired meal. So I think it's a constant offering that we need to keep sort of innovating and keeping the customer engaged. We also did like a huge tailgate, which was basically an experience where you come and dine out of your car. So we did that on our anniversary on the 20th of September. So I think it doesn't stop. I mean, we're constantly thinking of what next, because I think also the attention of the customer is constantly shifting.
Lovely. It's such a pleasure to hear these fresh takes on in every adversity there lies an opportunity. So I love the way that you kind of put it in a nutshell, and the fact that you're constantly disrupting this entire space of hospitality, whether it's a Gauri or it's you. I'm just loving it. And I think the next question is how you, Aditi, put it, that the challenges are coming from homes also now. So the next question I want to kind of pose to Gauri, saying that Aditi just said, and this is true for mostly all of us, because Indians love cooking. We're homemakers, we are out there. So it's just that even I, who I think a year back didn't think that I had skills even to make coffee, accepted the Dalgona challenge and all of that. So when there is this whimsy kitchens happening, where women are becoming masters of the kitchen, men are becoming masters of the kitchen, the adolescents are becoming masters of the kitchen, what do you think? Do you think there's a real challenge in your home delivery model, or is it something that you're taking in your stride? How is it kind of playing itself out for you all? Gauri, the question's to you.
So, you know, Nikki, I think, I mean, I second everything Aditi was saying, you know, about how sort of the audience has, you know, we've had to kind of adapt to this situation. And, you know, you're absolutely right. The audience is sort of becoming, you know, spending more time in the kitchen. And I think it's only complemented what we're doing. So, you know, yes, they are spending more time in the kitchen, but I don't think they want to spend all their time in the kitchen. So, you know, the delivery sort of still it's a relief. It's something that they look forward to, and it's still very much, you know, in demand. But I think to sort of address that new dimension of home cooks, you know, we actually at Magazine Street Kitchen used to do cooking workshops at the kitchen itself, which obviously right now can't happen. So we took it to a digital format, and, you know, we started doing, inviting all the same chefs who used to come and do the physical workshops to now do them digitally. And it actually opened up a whole new sort of array of opportunity for us, because now we weren't restricted to chefs who were in Bombay. We have, you know, a chef who's in Canada doing a sourdough workshop. We had a chef in Australia doing like a salad making. So it was great because our audience suddenly opened up, and, you know, the chefs who were teaching it as well, you know, opened up sort of globally for us. So, you know, it created a whole new opportunity. And I think even in terms of the, so one of our brands, which is Mag Street Bread Co., it's a bakery, and, you know, it's again a delivery only format. We don't have any retail spaces. But, you know, what we realized was that everyone was shopping online, right? And especially in the beginning, you know, everyone was trying to get delivery slots from Food Hall and Nature's Basket and whatnot, and they were really struggling with that. And so we again saw an opportunity, and we actually expanded our bakery menu to include other gourmet products that kind of complement the bread. So whether it was cheeses or honeys or, you know, nut butters or, and now that's become sort of an extension of our bakery business, which isn't, again, a temporary thing. I think it's something that, you know, we found an opportunity and we sort of took it forward. And so now people can, you know, when they're ordering their breads, they can get all these other things that they're probably going to need as well in the same place. So, you know, it's really firstly understanding what the need of the hour is, and then without really compromising on your, you know, brand ethos and, you know, your sort of standards of operation. I think sort of being sort of creative of how you can fulfill those demands.
Right. And it's a very valid point, Gauri. It's almost like a restart. and re-strategize for this entire market and this industry. So I just want to touch upon the point that you touched upon, actually saying that, you know, getting consumers more than what they had exposure to earlier. You kind of turned the COVID on its head. You inverted the pyramid. I want to know that, but for you, the challenge would have been not only to retain old customers, but yours is a growing business. It's not just one outlet, it's multifarious. So how do you continue over social media platforms, over using tech, using home delivery services to not just retain old customers, give them a wider set of experiences, but to also gain the trust of newer ones and also gain agility with keeping your businesses even more amplified than usual? What are those things that you do for customers in this space that builds and kind of creates more trust and value in the relationship? Because as you said, it's a socially distanced way of kind of conducting business.
So, you know, I'll give you two examples of something that we did. And one is essentially, and I know like everyone was taking advantage of this, is that because everybody, you know, was at home, working from home, or, you know, not working from home, whatever it is, people were spending more time on social media, right? So if you were ever going to take advantage of that sort of social media reach, it was now, you know, no better time than now. So I think we obviously did that. We, you know, we only resumed 2 out of the 4 delivery brands right after lockdown started. It took us about a month and a half to start the other 2. And, but we didn't stop engaging with our audience, you know. So even before the table started its delivery, I think in mid-May. And so that was a good like month and a half, almost 2 months between shutting the restaurant and starting delivery. But we continued to do, you know, whether it was like live sessions and getting our employees to do them rather than, you know, getting the team to do them rather than, you know, me sort of doing everything, or just, you know, sharing updates of what was happening with our, you know, with the wider team. So I think firstly, just taking advantage of that, that sort of growth in online attention that you know we had was the first thing. Another example of something that we did was that, you know, again recognizing that people were trying to socially distance, they were also moving away from Bombay. So I'm actually there right now in Alibag, and you know, we have our farm here, and like me, there were many other people who were choosing to get out of Bombay, you know, if they had you know, a place in Alibag. And so again, we saw, you know, we saw an opportunity here because they were all here. It was beautiful. It was great. They were like socially distanced, all of that. But then they didn't have access to all these great, you know, delivery menus that everyone was doing in Bombay. And so we actually started delivering in Alibag. And, you know, again, they could have been, you know, a combination of our existing customers as well as new customers. I mean, I know that we definitely had a lot of first time, you know, diners of our food. So, you know, again, it was an opportunity that we saw and we took it. Now, it may be a short-lived thing, it may be, but I think that, you know, if they've enjoyed the food and they've ordered repeatedly, then even if and when they come back to Bombay, you know, hopefully they'll continue to be our customers. So it's really right now for us, it was just about being creative with whatever sort of opportunities we saw in the current situation. And some of those will, you know, I think are here to stay, and some, you know, it might be temporary.
All I'm hearing is agility, innovation, creation, creativity, disruption. So I think I'm so happy to hear these positives after such a long time. So the pandemic, the entrepreneurs are here, the restaurateurs are here to kind of guide your soul food right to you. So very happy to hear that. Aditi, the same question to you. In fact, 2 questions in one. First is the home cook challenger brands that you got to deal with. And the second one is, you know, with this entire social media inclusion, how do you ascertain the pulse of the customer? Because social media is all about fads and trends. How do you kind of create and sustain that interest, to build that brand loyalty and trust. Because once you go to a restaurant, it's a physical brick and mortar place. Home deliveries is now getting as cluttered as the brick and mortar restaurants were. There is enough competition and there's more competition. And like Gauri said, she shifted base. The entire proposition moved with her to Alibag. So more for Alibagians then. So I just wanted to ask you, the home cook challenge, how does that impact business, especially the home delivery? And I also wanted to understand, in a socially agile market where trends change and the needs change and the demands continually change, how do you continue to engage with customers and continue to build trust with consumers?
Okay, so for me, luckily, because I'd been also doing catering before I even opened the restaurant. So I think for me, I really had a pulse on like a more 360-degree experience that our audience expects. So I think for us, we very quickly pivoted into providing that to our audience. And and it really wasn't difficult, because I knew how to package it, right? Because I'd been doing that on the catering side for so many years. I really knew how to package that experience even in a takeaway format. So very early on, I remember like a very dear client was getting engaged, and even if it was with 10 people, they still wanted to celebrate it well, because they were doing the whole proposal, etc. And I sent like everything, right from the table decor, which was meant to go onto the table. Otherwise, we would have gone for the setup physically. So we sent the table decor. Even all the food went like individually plated, but then the way we packaged it, usually how we would take it, you know, in trays, or like the way we packaged it, because it was in a COVID environment, like everything was like, you know, double packed and kept very like in a secure manner. And and that, like when we got back the feedback, they really felt like they literally had us over, and it felt like we had catered the event. So it was really rewarding to hear that sort of feedback and response. And then I realized that, you know, sort of the customer demand hasn't changed, right? Even with them sitting at homes, etc. I think celebrations was a big one that we kept on during this time. And whether it was like, you know, we were the ones that, like, we started quickly innovating on like DIY boxes, you know, we went online very quickly. So I think it was just about literally like I think for me, it was like about, you know, we're in this scenario, and like there's either you could keep moping about it and keep, you know, thinking when you're going to get out of it, or like you just sort of go head on and like take advantage of the change. And I think that's what we did. And, you know, we quickly became like, you know, pioneers of like doing lots of like amazing, like lunch hamper, dinner hampers, DIY kits, went online. So also our customer base broadened very, very quickly. Like, you know, we didn't have or like a huge customer audience, say in a place like Lonavala, Pune, but now we do. You know, we've got customers now in Delhi, or in like people ordering from like a Coimbatore or Hyderabad, and people would literally like even send like some of our audience is crazy enough, would actually send their representative pick up a lunch to fly to Hyderabad. So like we've also had that, because there's so much dearth of great food in some of these cities that I think like people sitting at home really just wanted to engage in good food. So we took a lot of advantage. We started doing a couple of consultancies, you know, in a couple of these B-tier cities, so which also worked to our advantage. So it's actually been great. I have no complaints, and I also see a lot of business opportunity that we didn't look at before, that we sort of now will venture into, like Gauri's saying, like, you know, sauces and dressings, and these are things that we didn't even think of doing before. Like, you know, purely running a restaurant or running a catering business, but then now there are 10 other businesses that we could think of doing.
Aditi, also I wanted to ask you, you know, this is the day and age of digitization. You know, it's the day and age of data mining. It's the day and age of using technology to kind of amp up your game, no matter what the environment or how the external environment changes and evolves. So have you kind of depended on digitization or technology to make any nuanced new beginnings or new verticals, or like you said, to get to know what the next big thing is and kind of to latch on to that big opportunity? Has digitization?
For sure, because like I told you, like we went, like especially with the whole catering size, we've digitized it, gone online. And I mean, I never really thought about, how many clicks or, how many clicks my webpage should have, or a product, to sort of track that record of, what's selling and, what's popular. But now we're actually spending that money doing that. Like we never thought of doing a sponsored ad because it worked for our brand. But now, I mean, I think I've changed my whole thought process about the way I'm going to look at things post-COVID.
And do you feel that you are more engaged with your consumer set than you were ever before? Is that something that you...
I mean, anyways, I think even the restaurant, the catering was a very, very personalized service. It was because we were also catering at a certain price bracket. It was a very one-to-one service. Like we knew our customers. We speak always directly to our customers. But I think even more now, like I'm at work every day, even if it's like doing silly, errands about or running an errand to the flower market, or, sending a payment link. I'm probably also doing that along with my team. And I think the engagement levels become even more.
Super. So Gauri, coming back to you, I happened to hear a podcast on the Kulaba Cartel. I think there was this episode, I think episode 12 or 13, 12, I think, where you spoke about rebranding in the middle of COVID. And June, was it? I think it was June. So what amount of digitization, technology intervention did you need to pull in? And how did you arrive at the rebranding at this juncture in the entire pandemic scenario? And what led you to it? And what was the feedback that actually kind of got you to do that? And what was the technology interface that you used to kind of get your communication going out there to your customers with the rebranding in progress?
Sorry, so just to give you like a 1-minute background, to that whole scenario, we had a restaurant, a Southeast Asian restaurant called Masque, which we opened about 2 years ago. And it didn't take off in a restaurant format, but I think that by the time we sort of realized or got the menu to the point that we really were happy, the restaurant probably had been written off as a restaurant, but we were really happy with the menu at that point. So, what we did is that we actually just 10 days before lockdown had reopened it as a new restaurant, a Cantonese restaurant. And obviously it didn't see much of the light of day, COVID. And so now we'll, obviously that will change hopefully when restaurants can reopen. But because we actually really, we realized when we were closing down Masque that the menu was actually something, at a point that it wasn't something that we wanted to let go of. We relaunched it during COVID as a delivery only brand. And, so obviously it's the people who sort of, did frequent the restaurant were really happy, and we've sort of now created a whole new audience for it. And so that was an interesting kind of pivot for us where, the team was there and the menu was there, and, so it was just, it was essentially like relaunching this brand as in a delivery format. So I think that's what probably you're referring to. So it's really, like Aditi was saying, you do what you got to do, you hustle. Correct. And you've got to figure out ways to kind of keep going. And actually a lot of it is it gives rise to, it may come from a different place of almost necessity, but it actually gives rise to a lot of opportunities that, you may not have thought of prior to this situation.
Right. So I also wanted to kind of put one more question to you. You're talking about the home deliveries format a lot. You're talking about cloud kitchens a lot. The teams that you initially hired were more of a flow staff. So the experience, the training, and the agility in terms of guidance and the learnings would have been to cater to that brick and mortar store. Because you went through, all of you all are going through this transition of, from brick and mortar, moving to home kitchens, to clouds, to home delivery patterns. Did you have a lot of retraining of the teams to do? If yes, how?
So I don't think it was so much retraining of the team because we, at least in our case, we were, we were launching existing menus so the 2 out of our 4 delivery, current delivery formats were only delivery formats anyway. So the bakery and Iktara, which is our Indian cuisine, they were always only delivery. So, there was nothing really to relearn or rehash during lockdown. With the table and with Misty, because it's a Southeast Asian menu, we felt that it was very conducive to a delivery format. I think the most important thing is, like what Aditi mentioned before, is that, it's not about a restaurant just switching to delivery. There's menus that are created for restaurants, and especially I think in both our cases where, it is considered fine dining. Something that you want your diner to eat when it's come out fresh out of the kitchen, it's plated in a certain way, doesn't mean you can just like bang that into a takeaway box and deliver that and it's going to be the same. So I think what we did have to kind of reevaluate when it came to delivery was really being selective about the menu that was going to be made available for delivery. You have to keep in mind, firstly, that at home, people are looking for comfort, like Aditi mentioned earlier, whereas in a restaurant, they're looking, it's more of an experience. It's it could be a celebration or whatever, but it's coming from a different, need that's being fulfilled when you go out to a restaurant versus when you order in. So menus have to keep that in mind when you're engineering a menu. And then the other thing is packaging. I mean, like Aditi said that in our case as well, it was I'll give you an example which sort of it may be frowned upon, but it was a big decision for us, was that we were using entirely sustainable packaging until that point. But then when I started getting our own, everything used to come to us as a test delivery before we would put it out there. And I actually could tell that something, it like either because the packaging would absorb it or, it would somehow affect the sauce or whatever. So we actually, for certain things, had to switch to plastic packaging because it made a difference to how the food ended up on your plate. And it's something very like subtle and minor, and most people wouldn't probably know the difference but for us, we were like, okay, if we're doing delivery, it's got to be, the way you intend the food to reach the consumer. At the end of the day, where our restaurant is about food, right? That's what your product is at the moment, and so it better be in its best possible format when you're doing that. So I think that more than the team having to, of course, yes, like I said, we reassign certain roles to people just to be able to keep them busy and occupied and employed, but those were things that I think that they picked up pretty quickly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a lot of it is hospitality comes from the heart, and whether you're doing it in a restaurant or you're packing something for someone, it's really a combination of common sense and heart. So that wasn't so hard, but I think the bigger challenge for us was just making sure that it reached people the way we intended it to reach them, and also that it was the right kind of food that people would want to continue to order.
Experience.
Yeah.
So Aditi, the question to you again, but from what Gauri said, I think the point that she's drawing and dawning upon here is food is all about a combination of science and art. Now, when you're kind of not tabling it to the customer there, it's all about rejigging the kitchen and the menus and getting the best of your product out there. Letting the customer have that experience, even if he's sitting or he or she is sitting down within the premises of their homes with social distancing. So what are the changes apart from the menu, that those agile changes that you made in the art and science of plating your food or tabling your food or packaging your food or delivering your food? Was it restricted to the kitchen? Was it restricted to a certain aspect of the staffing? How did you kind of manage it all? Because I'm sure that detailed menus to concise, crisp menus to say and ascertain what tastes good in a certain radius with the instruction manual. Not that customers usually follow the instruction manual. I usually don't, throw it away. But how did you kind of cope with it? And what was the art and science of delivery and of kitchen deliveries and of menus that you brought into play?
So let me just maybe cite an example here, which would probably sum this question up. So we did a sit-down dinner, which was amongst 25 friends all across the city. And it was a 5-course meal that had to be delivered to 25 different homes. So what we did was, even though every course was quite detailed and, it wasn't it required, to be eaten at a certain temperature or the way we needed to sort of package it. I think we did it with so much thought. Like, for example, we did a tofu carpaccio salad. And we plated them on individual butter papers, which a customer just had to sort of slip into their main plate and give the dressing in a tiny squeezy bottle that they had to sort of garnish and send the garnishes separately. So of course it required certain sort of assembly on the customer's side. But when we saw the final plating pictures of that meal, we felt super proud about the way, we'd sort of envisioned the meal and the way it was plated up on the customer's end. So to the extent of even each floral setup for each table went in a brown paper bag and, went to each home. So I think I think like Gauri said, is that hospitality comes from our heart, and it's something that, when you have a diner come into the restaurant, you sort of have a vision of how you'd want that whole night to pan out for that person, or, what sort of experience you'd like to translate on the plate, or even in terms of, as an ambience for the guests dining in your restaurant. So I think, again, for us also, I think, everybody in hospitality wears so many different hats because it's really something you want to do from your heart. So everybody, I think, pitched in, which was the best part about being sort of stuck in this doomsday together. And everybody, even at work, wore different hats and came up with quick solutions that, we didn't really have to spend days wondering, what we did wrong and we need to correct, but we sort of already had the solutions on the table before even going wrong. So I think there's been so much learning, and truly speaking, I think I've actually loved having this challenge being put on my plate.
So I just read an interaction somewhere. It was a lifestyle magazine, and the journalist wrote about you, and she says, you are unfazed by setbacks. I can see that now, Aditi, truly and clearly. And that's why your restaurant wins awards like it does. And congratulations on that. Now, I just want to ask that one last question, which kind of is the ultimate question for this session. I do understand as an industry, you are looking for some kind of policy, government support. If you were to kind of put a 5-point agenda in a nutshell for the government, what would it be? What would those 5 points be?
I think earlier on we were wishing for a lot of things. We were wishing for people in the UK and in Copenhagen were getting 90% of their salaries being paid by the government, for our landlords to excuse us on rents endlessly till we were able to stand back on our feet or open. But I think none of that at least happened for me. We had no, our landlords didn't give us any. Of course, a Masque landlord, I have to say, probably met us halfway, but the other landlord where we have our catering setup and the lab, he was just he needed the money as much as, we needed the cut as well. But I mean, also to be in his shoes, like we sort of understood, and we just done up the labs, so we were definitely not rocking the boat with him. So we just sort of had to suck up and pay our dues, and and like I'm saying, like there was a lot that we probably expected, but then if you're just going to sit and mope over those things, you're never really going to sort of you'd have to probably shut doors. I mean, you have to be open to then closing doors and then probably reserving your capital and opening when the times are better. But obviously we were not going to do that. We just like come out of being nominated for Asia's 50 for one to watch out for, and it would have been, actually we were really looking forward to the next couple of months, so it was a bit of a bummer in all that sense. But I mean, we saw that globally people were accepting the challenge and really going sort of head on with whatever was being thrown at them, and we really just took it in great stride. We saw our competitors or like other restaurateurs in the city also doing the same, and we realized that this is how it's going to be, and we have to strategize better for when we open. And of course, like even now with an opening phase, we're thinking of, maybe opening lab first, still working with a smaller team. So, I mean, I think for us, we're just curtailing our own expenses to the best of our ability. But I mean, I don't think we're waiting for the government to really give us something.
Understood. Now, I want to end that on a very positive note. You're the entrepreneurs, you're indigenous, you make India proud. No matter what is thrown at you, you kind of juggle it. So I just want to have this last answer or response to this entire India revival story. COVID, we've got to learn to live with it. It's the new normal. Now, if I were to talk to you, Aditi, about the brand, the one to watch out for. So what is it that I could kind of feel proud of an indigenous brand and the way forward strategy that you have to kind of navigate the next 1.5 years for your own brand, for your own properties? Is there a vision? Is there a mission?
I think, I mean, of course, there's a vision. I mean, we're already thinking, how in the new scenario, even when restaurants open, are people really going to invest 2 hours sitting in a restaurant? And, we've been asking ourselves these questions. Like, we need to be very practical about, our concept and, the way. Of course, we don't want to take away with the tasting menu. I mean, that's, what the restaurant's built on, and we're very proud of creating that. And also, like, we've worked on a ecosystem of where we are like sort of a zero waste restaurant. We sort of have our own composting machine behind the restaurant. So we have created that ecosystem for ourselves. So I don't think we want to do away with how we ran things. But of course, I think we're parallelly going to definitely still continue delivery, maybe under a younger brand name, or I'm only talking about Masque right now. So we will continue it with another younger brand name, etc. We're still strategizing on that. Downstairs, we're thinking of creating a shorter format with changing actually the shapes of our table to make it more conducive for smaller seatings, like tables of 2s and 4s, rather than sort of have larger tables come in. And maybe upstairs do a quick lounge seating, like a smaller lounge seating where if people want to just come for drinks and have a shorter format. And then where we also use, where we opened lab before lockdown, which was like a chef's table, which we use as a private dining area, or like bigger groups that we sort of move into the lab. So we are just rejuggling the space to make it more conducive for a COVID environment. Luckily, we are blessed with high ceilings, and anyways, our tables were quite socially distanced. So, I mean, that was anyways going our way. So fingers crossed, things are going to be great.
Lovely. I love the way that you're thinking. I think it's the small changes that are going to make the big impacts. So all the best to you. I'm sure you do very, very well. Gauri, the same question to you. If you had a 5-point agenda with the government as an industry, as a sector, what would those 5 points on your wish list be?
So I kind of I think I'd reiterate everything that Aditi said, is that you can't wait around for other people to sort of rescue you. You have to kind of take charge and take ownership of your own ship in a way. So, and that's what pretty much I think the entire industry has realized and is doing. But, having said that, I think there are some larger issues that this industry was sort of lobbying for well before COVID. And I think COVID has only, reinforced the need for these changes. Specific things like around GST and things like that. So I think those initiatives and, that sort of lobbying needs to continue, because this is for a much longer term, sort of impact for the industry. So, but I think, COVID specifically, there are certain things, relating to like licenses and, things like that, which are more sort of, it's operational issues. It's at the end of the day, it's really about I would just hope that the government recognizes the value of the restaurant industry, of the F&B industry to the economy, and just is more supportive in general, in whichever way, whether today it's to do with GST or it's to do with license fees or it's to do with the processes or whatever it is. I think that not sort of seeing the F&B industry as a luxury segment that just needs to be kind of, hey, they're not, that doesn't affect the Aam Aadmi. I don't think that that's true. I think the impact that we have both in terms of direct and indirect employment is so vast that it really needs to be, given a lot more sort of consideration when it comes to policy. So, that's probably my sort of big picture, wish list, I guess. And to your second question in terms of sort of the way forward, I think again it's about it's really this whole situation has actually with all these sort of situations come opportunity, and I think that it's about I think as entrepreneurs you're innately positive. I mean that just comes with the territory. And so, we kind of, you take it in your stride, ride with the challenge and see what lies ahead. So I think it's exactly what, even Aditi talked about earlier. I think you have to just sort of take it all in your stride and be positive about the way ahead. And I actually think that, I'm very excited about the opportunities this has thrown up. So, yeah, that's what we're looking forward to now.
Lovely. It was such a pleasure to talk to the both of you. I think you're miles ahead in terms of thinking anew, thinking fresh, bringing absolutely positive vibes, no matter what the situation is. And I think both of you all are go-getters. You will we are looking forward to see the kind of change that you kind of bring to the restauranting or hospitality environment. We're looking forward to Wilderness to Table. We're looking forward to a little taste of
women power.
Yeah, we're looking forward to women power. But I think the agility, the versatility, the go-getter attitudes and never say die is what I think you guys completely emanate, and wish you all the very best. Riddhi, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was like an amazing conversation to just listen to. And like Nicky says, and Aditi said, women power, and that's the reason why these two amazing women are on our top 50 list. Thank you so much for participating. And I wish that we see you on the list every year.
Thank you so much.